Hey y'all, it's been a while. I honestly came on here with not really an outline of what I'm going to share, but how are you, right? How are you? And let's just start off like that, right? How y'all doing? How y'all feeling? I'm always checking in with how you feel because that's what we're going to talk about today. So, where have I been? I'm always here. But one thing about me, especially now, the more that I grow, the more that I learn and heal inwardly, is that I won't waste my breath. When I speak and when I share, it's imperative to me that I am sharing from the heart. I am heart-led, and I'll no longer, right? I will no longer force myself to speak when it's not in my heart, right? I've been going through a series of initiations, right? And these initiations are happening to me or are occurring through symbols, right? In my day-to-day life, as well as through dreams. There's a lot of healing when it comes to women that can and will occur through her dreams if she allows it. If her soul and her higher self understands that she will decode these dreams, she will do the work to understand herself, then the dreams will come. And also, you may just dream, right? You may just be a dreamer and you may receive the code and maybe you won't decode the dream, right? But you're still going to receive the download because the feminine is always connected to her inner world. Even when she tries to run away from her inner world. But when it comes to who I am now, when it comes to the women that I desire to assist, it's going to be the women that are already in touch with their emotions or want to get closer to their emotions. The woman that wants to transform through her emotions. Women that are ready to transform her old identity into a new identity. So, where am I going with this? Again, I've been going through a series of initiations, and I've been holding space for these initiations through emotions because the emotions are being released. I'm downloading wealth codes, and when I say wealth codes, it's not about fiat and actual paper money. I'm talking about wealth codes, higher self codes, codes of re-establishing and rewiring my nervous system. I was born from an anxious womb via my mother's womb. How do I know that? Because of how I was raised. I was born via a fearful womb. So those codes have been downloaded into my womb imprint, having been printed into my womb. And I am the generational curse breaker. Look at me. Just look at me. I have been resetting my nervous system since last year. And it happened because I triggered an occurrence in my life that caused betrayal. And this betrayal activated my nerves in my nervous system to go into fight and flight mode. And because I had the tools and the resources, because I have been doing the work for the past 7 years, because I had went on a psilocybin journey with a womb healer, a womb practitioner, a mentor, a womb mentor and womb teacher of mine that she was hosting, because I had invested in myself, invested in my journey of womb alchemy. Psilocybin has been working through my nervous system codes, my cellular codes, since that day, because spirit and my higher self and my soul knew that I was gonna go through what I went through. Betrayal, feeling lost, grief, the level of grief that I have alchemized and consistently I'm riding the wave. We all do, right? But some of us can actually transmute pain into creation, into creativity. So, where am I going with this? Let me drink some water, y'all. Because I have invested in myself. See, the thing about the feminine has to invest in herself. She cannot look as though she's spending. She has to think of everything as an investment. Is this going to bring me closer to being a mastered woman, a woman of substance? Is this going to bring me to an elevated place where I look at myself as the queen that I am, as the goddess that I am? Because that's the thing about the dreams that I've been having lately, that I call the wealth code dreams, right? The activating dreams. Dreams of water, dreams of orcas, dreams of releasing and letting go of old identities, old patterns that no longer serve me. Doing the inner womb work, realizing doing the inner womb work over and over again, right? Doing all this work, but then holding on to the old self and not releasing and not letting everything burn. Let it all go, let it all burn sometimes. And it happens up here first, in here, and in your womb. You got to be able to feel that alignment of, I don't care anymore. I release what's been holding me back from my higher self. So basically, my dream or my dreams brought me to decoding, right, my dream, because I am in touch with my intuitive, watery, motherly, wholesome side, right? And I know how important dreams are. They're not, the dreams are connected to the subconscious of the feminine. And when I say the feminine, I don't mean just women, but men as well. We both have both masculine and feminine energies, right? But when it comes to the dream state, then this is the dream state is connected to the subconscious mind or your subconscious thoughts. So I said, okay, I'm going to decode this dream because it's important to me to understand where I stand, and what's my subconscious trying to teach me and tell me. The best thing for you to do as a woman is to study yourself, is to know yourself 100% wholeheartedly. Because when you do, can't nobody shake you. Can't nothing shake you. Can't nothing break you. And I'm talking 100% know yourself. Know your triggers. Know what you're not good at. Know what makes you upset. Know what makes you react. Know what makes you angry. Know what makes you happy. Know what makes you feel flourished and nourished. That is a powerful woman. That is a mastered woman. I know that dreams empower me, and to know them and to know what my subconscious is feeling or is telling me, to know these deep inner workings of myself, I know that I can move forward despite me not wanting to always change, right? You know, we are usually, humans are very resistant to change, to new, or to the newness, or to something that's being asked and called for us to do. And you know, we tend to be stuck to, because the human mind and your ego wants to be connected to comfort and what you already know. Anyway, because I decoded my dream, then I got the message through breaking my dream down that I must work with water to heal this subconscious belief, to heal this subconscious, or this, to heal this actual pain that was showing itself in the real world, in this 3D world that my dream was telling me to heal, to work on, that I was already working on in my dream state. See, the thing is, the feminine heals in her dream state. When she goes to sleep, when she's on her cycle, her moon cycle, her menstrual cycle, these are all times of going inward in order for you to detoxify and clarify and cleanse. So, with that being said, I did a ritual. Okay, there was a ritual done, okay, because of this dream. There was a ritual created, and there were some journal prompts as well. which were amazing, right? Helped me release. But with this ritual was with water. We we used water. I said we because there was if the ritual was not only me. I did this ritual, but when the feminine works on her inner world, when she's doing inner healing, she's working with a collective of other women, especially when she's doing it during her cycle. Highly recommended. And I'm going to talk to y'all about that in a little bit. But it is the matriarch that is with her, right? Her ancestral lineage, the women that have her back, that is watching her. Because again, if she is the generational curse breaker, the chosen one, then, you know, there's always going to be company for her. But most of her company is spiritual, it's ethereal, it's otherworldly. It's not necessarily in the physical. She has a lot of, you know, energies rooting for her, spirit guides and all the things. And it's almost like giving birth, because this ritual, y'all, so that's why, you know what? We're going to be doing rituals together. That's the news. That's the tea. Women need to be in community with each other, but not only that, there's so many women that don't have a safe space for them to release emotions. And there's so many women that maybe they're in touch with their emotions and they feel like, you know, they feel like they don't have a safe space to cry. You know, maybe you do cry often, maybe you don't feel like you cry often. But you tapped into your journal prompts and your oracle cards and, you know, your meditation. You've done all of that. But you need simple day-to-day rituals or monthly rituals to tap in, because we put a lot out, but the feminine needs to be in a lot, right? She operates in a 28-day, right? We call it the lunar cycle, because mainly we are under the energy of the moon as women, as opposed to men who are under the energy of the sun, and the sun activates them. The moon activates us more so. And so with that being said, we are not always on. So the best time to do rituals that help you cleanse out some old energy is during your menstrual cycle. It doesn't have to be, but it's highly recommended. Especially if you want to get some gunk out. Gunk meaning emotions trapped in the body. Okay, so there's a lot of emotions when it comes to women, and we have to be able to learn how to let these emotions be released through ritual, through practices that don't take that long. This ritual was legit like 10 minutes. And I'm telling you, the amount of crying just from touching the water. It's about the water. If we want to release pain, if we want to grieve, we can have our therapist, yes, but we need to connect with the waters. This is about the water. We're looking for death. We're looking for water in others. We want others to nurture us and give us a, you know, tap on the back and a rub on the back. But really, the best version of death that you will get is through water and through water rituals. As opposed to, you know, depending on others to give us that death. So You need a home for your emotions. Your emotions have to be housed so that you can feel protected and safe to create a new life, a new identity. You won't be able to create this new identity if you don't have a place for your emotions to land. And so when I talk about this ritual that I did, or that I, experienced, right? Because it is an experience to be in your own energy, to be within your own emotional empowerment, right? You feel empowered by your emotions, even if you are grieving and sobbing, ugly sobbing. You feel empowered. Again, you feel alive. That's what it's all about, right? It's about feeling alive despite your tears, or your, excessive joy. That's an emotion as well, and that needs a place to live too, so that it can be shared with the right surrounding, or within the right surrounding, right? With appreciative energies collectively, right? So that even joy needs a place to land. It has to be around the right people that amplify the joy, or that is bringing you the joy. But it's coming from you, your inner world, and then it's being matched by others. So that's just joy. I'm talking about that. That's right. But with me, working with women and that are grieving their old identities and ready to cross over, that's the women that I am here to work with. And through this dream, I understand that now. Not only that, I do have one-on-one services where I call them guided offerings and services, because it's really about guidance, where we talk about womb frameworks and where your womb where has your womb come from. Remember when I spoke about my mother, having me, I was growing in my mother's womb, and her womb was an anxious womb, a fearful womb. So she passed a lot of that down to me. Okay. And a lot of that is, how can I explain it? I would say maybe a lack of trust in being in the passenger seat, right? For me, I'm a very controlling person, and it doesn't appear that way, but I do want to control things. I want things to look perfect. And that was my mom. She had a problem releasing, and she had a problem, so much so that she had a problem releasing, right? Because the thing is about, we're going to get back to the emotions and the water and the place and the house. But the thing about it is that when you have the sense of control, when you continuously want to control something, then that means there's a lack of trust, right? In the situation, people, person, place, thing, whatever. And then also, again, I'm thinking, there was a lack of trust in, again, being in the passenger place. and I always want to be in the driver's seat. And this is literally, right? And figuratively. Like, this is energetically as well as literally. I like to drive. I don't want nobody driving me half the time. I'm like, like, and I feel very not at ease for the most part. Depends who, right? I could be in an Uber and I might be okay, but when it comes to someone I know, it's so strange. Anyway, this is definitely something that's been passed down clearly to me because of certain things that had happened to me during when I was a child as well. Like accidents, like certain car accidents, and not being in control and then being hurt by these car accidents. Okay? And there you go. And it depends on who I was in the accident with. My father. Twice. So there's a lack of trust in the masculine leading, right? That was at one point something that I had to work through. You see how that correlates when it comes to my mother's womb and her lack of trust in who she mated with. She held that within her womb. She knew subconsciously that she was, probably making a mistake. I probably wouldn't be here if she didn't make a mistake. But to acknowledge this is deep work, requires deep work. It requires lots of accountability, because then you have to work through some of these, I don't want to call them kinks, but these shadows, right? These shadow aspects of you, of me. So anyway, y'all, where am I going with this? The mother wound, being a mother and not feeling like you have a safe space anymore because you don't have time to release, you don't have time to digest and time to feel all the feelings that come up for you without, you being interrupted. The feminine needs a safe space to land, period. She needs a safe space for her emotions to land. She needs a home for her emotions. Okay, and so when it comes to this ritual, right, and not only is it just one ritual, but it's so many things that we can do, right, to release. Okay, as opposed to expecting others to be able to carry our pain, we need to be able to house our own pains. We need to find a house, create a home for our emotions, for our pain, for our grief, for our sadness, for our joy. But it has to be safe in order for you to move forward, in order for you to, of course, get rid of the old identity and old patterns and then be a new person, right? That's wealth. To become closer, to move closer to your higher self, to the better version of you, to the future version of you, which is really technically, you could wake up and be that woman. You could wake up and say, I don't want to be a people pleaser no more. You could wake up and say, I don't want to be afraid to voice my opinions anymore just because I fear that this person will leave me or this person will be angry. It doesn't matter. Right? So that's that, right? Anyway, I hope you join me. We are going to have a time because... So, who is this for, right? Who is this message for? This message is for not someone, but the woman, right, that is not necessarily a beginner to self-reflection, right? But she is a beginner to emotional liberation, which means that she has not practiced holding herself, becoming her own mother, because you have to. That's where we at right now. But in regards to the feminine collective, we have to mother ourselves. Okay, we have to be able to hold ourselves and have these places, have these safe spaces to land. Meaning we have to have these practices and these rituals, right? We need a home for our emotions. That's basically what it is. We need to house our emotions. Right? This is how we feel protected and nourished, and then we can go back into the world and do our thing. Okay, so this is for the deeply sensitive, highly sensitive woman who feels deeply, okay, that feels neglected as it pertains to her emotions, in a sense where she feels like everybody depends on her and she doesn't have anywhere to land when it comes to depending on others for when she feels overwhelmed. This is for the woman that is overburdened by familial responsibilities, okay? By being the strong one in her family dynamics, her relationship dynamics. This is for the emotionally intelligent woman that is emotionally burdened, right? Or overwhelmed. You need a safe space, again, to release your emotions so that you can become other, so that you can go from one identity to the old identity that is no longer you to the new identity. Okay, this is for a mother who carries mother wounds, or a woman that has mother wounds, and you want to be able to not let that hinder your life and the trajectory of your life. Right? You don't want to repeat the same mistakes that your mother did in cycles, in the loop, over and over. You want to be that generational curse breaker, or that generational womb imprint reawakener. Right? You reawaken what needs to be seen, you bring it up to the surface, and then you transmute. You turn your pain into purpose. You can only do this when you master your emotions. That is one of the biggest hinders of the woman, of the feminine, not being able to master her emotions in real time, every time. Okay, so there's so many practices, but the practices that we need to focus on is the practices of the ocean. And honoring the ocean, honoring water energy, water spirits, honoring the oceanic energy or energies. Okay, so you're definitely a spiritually open and curious woman, right? You like to get to know yourself more on a deeper level. this is these kind of spaces, working with water. This is what's going to change the trajectory again in your life so that you can get rid of old toxic cycles. It's crazy how we're going to talk about it. Okay? But your intuition is getting louder and louder, and it's time. That means it's time, okay, to make a decision, right? And so that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be working together, releasing old identities. This is about emotional alchemy, emotional womb alchemy, where we tie in and connect the womb, the stories of our wombs, our foremothers and their wombs, with our emotions, energy and motion that needs to be released, because they pass down these energies through their wombs that have imprinted our wombs with these particular energies that are no longer serving us, that are hindering us from better lives, from making better decisions, from being in love with ourselves, so much so that we won't renege on our boundaries and our standards. Okay? So, again, this is for the woman that is emotionally sensitive. Okay? I release being the hard woman, the perfect woman. I release the illusion of perfection. And so, this is who I am, an emotional being with lots of oceanic energy in my chart, in my astrological chart. And how do I know this? Because I study myself. And because when you study yourself, you empower yourself. When you study yourself, you become empowered, embodied. People can feel that energy. People respect that energy. Okay? And then from all of this respect for yourself, eventually the universe has to tie that in, or match your energy, match your frequency, match your aura. Eventually the universe has to give you what you've been calling in. But you can only do this through the nervous system, through nervous system healing. Meaning you dealing with your emotions. You have a home for your emotions. That's how you heal your nervous system. That's how you move from fight or flight to soft and relax. Okay? You don't have to bark at nobody no more. You don't have to get angry because of your level of control and expectations on humans. You can depend on yourself, depend on your emotions, depend on how you can alchemize your emotions, turn your pain into purpose, and move forward. Right? We only have this one life. We gotta make it real cute and sexy. So, the home that I am building is the home of the waters. It is the home of the emotional waters. That is what women need. They need a space for the tears and the grief and the anger and the sadness to land. They need a space to embody their softness and get rid of all that fear. That's it. That's all. So let me know in the chat if you're interested. This is what it is. This is going to be amazing, but talk to me. Okay, let me know.